I've subsequently become aware of more information which causes me to regret my decision to recognize this individual. I wish to apologize to the House, and I'm deeply sorry that I have offended many with my gesture and remarks. I would also like to add that this initiative was entirely my own. The individual in question being from my riding and having been brought to my attention. No one, including you, my fellow parliamentarians, or the Ukraine delegation, was privy to my remarks prior to their delivery. Je remercie les députés pour leur
Thank
attention.
members for their attention.
The Honourable Minister is rising on a point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for that apology. I have to say, though, as a parliamentarian, as a Canadian of Jewish origin, as a descendant of Holocaust survivors whose majority of her family walked in to Auschwitz-Birkenau, and only my grandfather and his brother walked out, that I think this hurt all of us in Parliament. And I'll say that personally, I feel particularly hurt by this. I would say that as parliamentarians, we place our trust in you. There are many times when we recognize people in the gallery, and we do so on your good advice and your good offices. And all of us here did that in the chamber on Friday because we trusted you on that. I think this unfortunate situation has been deeply embarrassing for Canada's Parliament. I think it's been deeply embarrassing for Canada, and I think it was deeply embarrassing for the President of the Ukraine, who came here in friendship, who came here because we are a strong ally, and who came here because he trusted Canadians. I appreciate that this was that you're taking responsibility because this was your initiative, and you have confirmed that neither the Government of Canada nor the Ukrainian delegation had any prior knowledge to this individual being invited to the House or that he would be recognized. However, given this deeply embarrassing situation, I think for all of us as parliamentarians on all sides, I think it is very important that we collectively work together to strike this recognition from the record, and I will work with my colleagues to do that. To all those who have loved ones that were in the Holocaust, to Jewish Canadians, today being Yom Kippur, the holiest day in the Jewish calendar, a day of atonement, a day to prepare for the year ahead. We stand with you in this. We recognize this was a deeply hurtful moment, and many of us in this chamber feel that hurt acutely. I want to please ask all colleagues, particularly those in the Conservative Party of Canada, to make sure that we do not politicize this issue. I don't think it helps anybody. I think we need to make sure that we move forward, recognize this mistake, and stand in solidarity together to reiterate our commitment to Jewish Canadians, but also to Ukrainian Canadians and the people who are fighting for freedom, for peace, and for justice in Ukraine right now. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I want to thank the honourable member for her comment, and the honourable member for New Westminster Burnaby, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. C'est vraiment avec une grande tristesse que je prends la parole aujourd'hui pour
Sadness that I take the floor today
la déclaration que vous venez de faire,
following the statement
aussi
you
pour
just
traiter de ce
made
qui se passait
and to deal
dans
with
ces chambres
what happened
vendredi.
in the House on Friday.
Every day, members of Parliament entrust the Speaker to guide this Parliament through challenging circumstances. And Mr. Speaker, you have done an admirable job doing just that. Through COVID-19, the occupation of downtown Ottawa last winter, and the putting in place of a hybrid Parliament. The procédure et les usages de Chambre des communes indiquent
The House of Commons procedures and practices indicate that the Speaker has various roles, including ceremonial and diplomatic, and our Speaker often acts as a representative of the House. His ceremonial role is important, and that is why he alone has the privilege of recognizing visitors in the gallery. This privileged role led to a situation on Friday in which an individual who, according to the Simon Wiesenthal Center, was a member of a Nazi unit responsible for the death of many Jews and was convicted in the Nuremberg trials.
Mr. Speaker, that this individual was a guest of this House, and shocking that members of Parliament rose to give him an ovation. Members did so because we took the Speaker's word that this individual should indeed be granted this honor in good faith. We have members of Parliament who have dedicated significant parts of their lives to fighting racism, fascism, and anti-Semitism. We have members of Parliament who lost family members to Nazism. Two members of my family, my uncle and my grandfather, whose names are commemorated on the cenotaph in Westminster, BC, are part of the scars of this history. These same members of Parliament feel betrayed right now, as do members of the Jewish community and of other communities who are victims of the horrific violence of the Nazis. À bien des égards, le président est le visage de cette chambre.
In many ways, the Speaker is the face of this House and represents our joint commitment to democratic institutions and principles. The Speaker has to be above reproach in that role. Although we appreciate the apology made by the Speaker yesterday and in his statement today, we regretfully and sadly say that that's not enough.
Unforgivable error, which puts the entire House in disrepute. And unfortunately, I believe a sacred trust has been broken. It's for that reason, for the good of the institution of the House of Commons, that I say, sadly, I don't believe you can continue in this role. Regrettably, I must respectfully ask that you step aside. Je demande pour le bien du Parlement.
I ask for the good of Parliament that you step down from the role of Speaker.
Merci au commentaire.
Thank you for that comment.
Mr. Speaker, this is a very grave incident. On a day when the government of Canada is welcoming the head of state of Ukraine, a country that is undergoing an unjust and illegal invasion. There was a guest in the gallery whose presence fed into the Russian propaganda and narrative about the bogus justification for Putin's illegal invasion. State visits are organized by the government. Every aspect of President Zelensky's visit would have been highly managed by the PMO. There are obviously incredible security concerns when you have not just a head of state, not just a head of a foreign dignitary, but someone whose people are fighting for their lives and their survival, someone who is targeted by Vladimir Putin's regime. Obviously, there are massive security implications. Your statement doesn't answer the questions around how this individual was vetted, how the government, who would have seen all aspects, all guest lists, all interactions with President Zelenskyy, allowed that person to be in the chamber. Members of Parliament don't have the ability to vet who might happen to be in the chamber on any given day. That's the responsibility of the Director of Protective Services, who reports to the Minister of Public Safety. And the coordination between the Prime Minister's office, the protocol office here in the House of Commons, and that protective service is what members trust is happening to make sure that things like that don't happen. If someone of that background, which a straightforward Google search will show served in that particular division during World War II, if that basic level of vetting was not done by the government, that raises serious concerns. What kind of message does that send to our allies around the world that when they come to the House of Commons to address the House and Senate, that basic rudimentary vetting as to who might be in the galleries isn't done? That's incredible, Mr. Speaker. So we'll take your statement under advisement. We'll have more to say on this. But there are still many, many questions that need to be answered as to how the Prime Minister's office so completely dropped the ball on this.
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I would just like to respond to my honourable colleague, because I think we both share the frustration about what happened on Friday, but I do want to reiterate, and as you have made very clear in your statement, Mr. Speaker, that this was your initiative. The Government of Canada had no knowledge of this individual coming to, the government had no knowledge. The Speaker is responsible for this chamber. He invited him of his own accord, and he made the decision himself to recognize him. Neither the Government of Canada nor the delegation of Ukraine had any knowledge of this. I would respectfully submit, Mr. Speaker, that you clarify this for the members opposite, because it's important that this information be clear and that these false allegations do not continue, because they're not true.